The story begins with a night scene in a circus tent. A dim spotlight illuminates the empty arena. The camera moves along a row of cages, one of which appears to be open. Inside it are old chains covered with rust and something that looks like dried blood. A muffled growl sounds in the distance. The camera pans up to a sign above the cage, on which is faintly written, "A tiger named Judge." The main character is a young journalist, Emma, who comes to a small town to write an article about an abandoned circus that closed 20 years ago after tragic events. There are rumors that several performers died in the circus, and one of the reasons is an unusual tiger that supposedly went crazy. Emma begins her investigation by studying old newspapers and talking to the locals. One of the old men tells her that the tiger, named Judge, was no ordinary animal. He looked at you as if he knew what you had done. He was called Judge because he decided who lived and who didn't. Emma goes to an abandoned circus at night to take pictures. She finds the Judge's old cage, covered in rust, and notices strange symbols scratched into the metal. Among them is the word diabide, condemned. While looking around the arena, Emma senses that someone is watching her. She hears muffled growling, though she knows the circus has long been free of animals. Her camera suddenly turns off and her flashlight begins to flicker. Emma finds the diary of a former tiger trainer left in an old van. The entries describe that the Judge appeared at the circus under strange circumstances. He was given to the circus director by mysterious people, warning, "This animal sees the truth." According to the trainer, the tiger never attacked without a reason, but if any of the workers hid something shady, the Judge would start growling at him, and then accidents would happen. The diary says, "One day he looked at me. I knew my time had come." Emma goes back to the Judge's cage to take a picture, but in place of the cage is now a huge shadow. She hears a loud roar and her camera goes off again. A tiger with burning eyes appears in the darkness. But its movements are strange. They are too deliberate, almost human. The tiger slowly approaches Emma. She tries to run away but finds that the circus doors are locked. The Judge looks her straight in the eye, and she hears a whisper coming not from his mouth but from the surrounding darkness. "You have come for the truth. Now you will know it." At that moment, Emma sees in the reflection of the stage glass her own actions that she has tried to forget, the deceit inflicted on those closest to her. The Judge growls and she is overcome with the feeling that he knows everything about her. The next morning, Emma is found lying in the center of the circus arena. She is alive but unable to speak. Her camera lies nearby and it records a single photo, the huge silhouette of a tiger standing behind her in a cage that no longer exists. The last shot shows a new circus in another city. Workers are setting up a cage on which is engraved the word Judge. One of them notices that an occasional growl is heard in the empty cage. "Let's go," Riza says, holding hands with Dong. Was the Judge an ordinary animal victimized by mysticism, or was he the embodiment of an ancient spirit that judges people for their secret sins? The story begins with a night scene in an abandoned zoo. Through the thick darkness, you can see old cages, rusted gates, and bent signs. In the distance, there is a growl that turns into an eerie whisper. The camera pauses on a huge cage where scratches are visible on the floor, forming the words, "He's still here." The main character is Tom, a young veterinarian who gets an assignment to inspect the zoo before it is demolished. He is assisted by his assistant, Lily. The zoo was once the pride of the town but was closed 10 years ago after a series of strange deaths of employees. Tom thinks it's just a rumor, and his job is to make sure no animals are left behind. Lily finds old records from the zoo. Among them are reports of an unusual lion named Azar, who, according to the staff, was too smart and, sometimes, talked. Lily jokes that it's just fiction, but Tom notices that all the reports about Azar are abruptly cut off. On the first evening, Tom and Lily begin their rounds of the cages. Most of them are empty, but when they reach the old lion cage, they find it undamaged. Inside, they see deep scratches on the floor, leading to a corner where a torn collar lies. Tom notices that the door of the cage is slightly ajar, although the paperwork says it should be sealed. During the night, Tom hears a low growl outside the building. Looking out the window, he notices a huge silhouette moving slowly along the fence. He writes it off as fatigue and decides to continue his inspection in the morning. The next day, Lily finds an old journal belonging to the zookeeper. It describes strange events. The animals were acting restless, especially at night, and Azar seemed to be controlling them. The last entry reads, "Azar is not just a lion. He speaks. He promised he'd come back." Tom and Lily find footprints on the zoo grounds that look fresh. They realize that something huge still inhabits the place. Lily begins to hear whispers as she approaches the lion's cage. She claims the voice is calling her name. Tom and Lily decide to return to Azar's cage. They find a hidden tunnel leading to an underground room. Inside, they discover an altar surrounded by animal bones. Scratched on the walls are images of a lion with eyes that glow in the dark. Lily finds an inscription, "Senses." Psalms 109. His eyes see everything. His voice subdues. At that moment, there is a loud roar and the tunnel begins to shake. Lily runs outside in a panic and Tom stays behind to take pictures. During the night, Tom notices that his camera has broken and the pictures have disappeared. He hears Lily screaming from a neighboring building. Rushing there, he sees her standing in front of the lion's cage. She is motionless, her eyes blank. A huge lion emerges from the cage with burning eyes, but its movements are too deliberate, almost human. Azar says, "You came for me, but now you will stay." Tom tries to save Lily, but the lion growls and his voice penetrates the mind, paralyzing Tom. The lion draws closer, his eyes growing brighter and brighter. Lily disappears into the darkness and Tom is left alone. At dawn, Tom comes to, sitting on the floor near the cage. Lily has disappeared, and there is no trace of the lion. As he drives back to town, he notices that glowing eyes occasionally flicker in his rearview mirror. The last shot shows a new zoo where workers are transporting animals. One of them picks up a cage and sees fresh scratches on it. He's back. Was Azar the spawn of an ancient curse, or a creature that used the guise of a lion to manipulate humans? And where is he now? The story begins with the view of the neglected basement of an old apartment building. The dim light of a lamp flickers, casting shadows on the walls. From one of the pipes comes the sound of dripping water. Gradually, the sound turns into a strange whisper. The camera moves down a narrow corridor, revealing the words scratched on the wall. "Leave us alone." The main characters are plumbers Victor and Pavel, friends who have been working together for many years. They receive a call from an old apartment building where the tenants complain of strange noises from the pipes and a strong odor in the basement. The customers claim that the pipes breathe and seem to whisper something at night. When they arrive at the site, a tense-looking senior concierge warns them, "Be careful, this house is built on other people's bones." Victor takes this as an urban legend, but Paul notices that the concierge is clearly alarmed. Victor and Pavel start working in the basement. The place is damp, smells rotten, and the pipes are covered with a strange scum. They find a blockage in one of the pipes, but instead of the usual debris, they pull out an old leather shoe. Engraved on the sole are the initials AM. Later, Paul notices that the water from the pipes is flowing upward instead of downward. Victor laughs at his remark, saying he's just tired. But soon, they both hear a knocking sound, as if someone is walking inside the pipes. Pavel assures them that it can't be rats. The sounds are too loud and rhythmic, and the work drags on into the night. Victor goes down to a deeper part of the basement where he discovers unaccounted pipes going into the ground. On one of them, he notices rusty spots that look like palm prints. Paul hears a voice coming from the vent. "Bring me back." Away decides to check one of the clogs. When he removes the pipe, a thick black liquid flows out. It has a strange odor reminiscent of decomposition. A small cloth-wrapped bundle falls out of the pipe. When they unwrap it, they find human bones. They report the find to the concierge, who confesses, "Decades ago, this house was built on the site of an old cemetery. Many bodies were left untouched, and the pipes running through the basement ended up next to the graves." According to the concierge, since then people started disappearing in the house, first workers, then tenants. In the old archive of the house, Victor and Pavel find a reference to a man with the initials AM. It was a worker who disappeared during construction. They say he died when he got stuck in one of the pipes. His body was never found. The pipes begin to emit a loud metallic groan. The lights in the basement flicker and the walls crack. Paul tries to get out, but finds that the door is closed. Victor hears a voice coming from the pipes. "You found me. Now you're mine." The shadows on the walls become thick, taking the shape of a man. They surround Victor, and he suddenly disappears into the darkness. Paul, distraught with fear, breaks through the window and climbs out. "Kelrook!" Victor's voice comes through the windows boarded up from the stable. The next morning, the police search the basement. They find no trace of Victor, but the pipes that the plumbers tried to dismantle look new and clean, as if they had never been touched. Paul notices that black water is flowing from one of the faucets in the house. The physicians look at Paul, and they believe his death could possibly have been contributing. The last shot shows a new plumber going down into the basement to fix the system. Words written with rusty tools flicker on the screen. "We'll take them all." Was it the curse of the house, the revenge of a worker's spirit trapped in the pipes, or something sinister lurking deep underground?